When can I go to the stars?
One day, my sweet.
What will be there?
Anything you can imagine. Our galaxy has billions of stars. Each of those stars could have many worlds. Every world could be home to a different form of life. And every life is a special story of its own.
These words, spoken by astronaut Buzz Aldrin in Mass Effect 3's post-credits scene, encapsulate what I think makes science fiction so great. It's the idea that our storytelling is limited only by the reach of our imagination. It's the notion that there will always be room for one more myth or one more legend in places far, far away.
The characters of the Mass Effect trilogy have become such icons. Their saga has elevated them above video game stardom. They've transcended the medium and become part of a wider pop culture. But now, Mass Effect Andromeda is in our hands. It takes us to a whole new galaxy and presents us with another world of storytelling potential, but it squanders that potential. Viewed through the wider scope of science fiction, Andromeda is a giant leap in the wrong direction. For as long as we've been around, humans have told stories. They're on the cave walls of modern-day France. They covered papyrus in the Library of Alexandria. They've been passed down from generation to generation around campfires and dinner tables, morphing with each new telling. And look also at the evolution of our technology. The printing press brought mass media. The kinetoscope brought early films. Computer circuitry led to animation, the internet, and, of course, video games. We've always sought new stories, yes, but also new ways to tell those stories.
Science fiction has played an important part in that process. It grants us an escape from reality where we can see ourselves in different worlds with different rule sets. It can act as a sort of test chamber, or as one of my coworkers recently put it, a petri dish.
In other words, the best stories in the genre offer insight into the human condition. The author Jules Verne offered such captivating sci-fi stories that literary critics were all but forced to take the genre seriously. Works such as 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Around the World in 80 Days, and Journey to the Center of the Earth had profound impact on both the literary and the scientific worlds. The author Ray Bradbury even went so far as to say, "We are all, in one way or another, the children of Jules Verne." During the 20th century, sci-fi expanded into other fields as well. Inspired by several of Verne's novels, French director Georges Méliès released A Trip to the Moon in 1902. It was the earliest example of sci-fi in cinema. Fritz Lang's Metropolis, widely considered the first great feature-length sci-fi film, shows us a city where dictators control the populace through robotics, subterfuge, and paranoia. Its setting doesn't just serve an aesthetic purpose, but a functional one as well. It uses its science fiction to show the class struggle between the city's poor inhabitants and upper-class elite. In 1938, the public expressed widespread outrage after hearing the War of the Worlds radio broadcast, in which Orson Welles presented an alien invasion as a series of realistic news bulletins. National media decried the approach, calling it deceptive in its delivery to the masses. It blurred the lines between fiction and reality, and the narrative showed the hysteria and confusion that might come along with extraterrestrial contact. Even more classics emerged throughout the century, each of them offering a different take on the sci-fi genre, their own distinct ways of telling new stories. 2001: A Space Odyssey further cemented Stanley Kubrick's genius. Ridley Scott became a household name with Alien and Blade Runner, perhaps one of the best films exploring what it means to be human. Then came The Matrix, a movie that offered a postmodern look at our perception of reality. And of course, we have Star Wars. It's the defining space opera and one of America's biggest contributions to pop culture. It spawned TV series, novels and teen fiction, national fan conventions, and a 4-day annual celebration. It's a testament to how pervasive science fiction has become. But it's not the plots of all these films that we've grown attached to. It's usually the characters. Names such as Ellen Ripley, Darth Vader, Neo, forever ingrained in our collective memory. Common people who, when thrust into otherworldly situations, become heroes, villains, or gods along the way. It comes as no surprise, then, that science fiction made its way into video games. It's a medium that thrives on escapism, and when combined with the mystery and wonder of sci-fi, that thrill multiplies tenfold. First-person shooters pit us against intergalactic threats. Strategy titles grant us control of alien species. Horror games challenge us with the unknown in the dark places of distant space.
But in this medium, more than others, we can roleplay the heroes and make our own allies, confront the villains ourselves. We can explore distant worlds with an agency not allowed in other forms of entertainment.
Maybe that's why the Mass Effect trilogy rests comfortably at the pinnacle of sci-fi video games. Building on its success with Knights of the Old Republic, developer BioWare envelops us in a fully realized sci-fi setting. We're not witnessing the first contact between humans and aliens that so many stories have explored. We're dropped into a Milky Way where humans have not only accepted the presence of alien life, but grown accustomed to it. The galaxy's inhabitants have created a galactic government. They've studied each other's cultures. They've shared technologies to help or hinder the advancements of their neighbors. Which is all to say that Mass Effect understands what makes sci-fi great to begin with, and wields those strengths with undeniable force. It acknowledges the difference between alien races. It creates characters that embody and celebrate those differences. They have habits and idiosyncrasies, so when they do something out of character, it's all the more endearing.
How are you getting drunk?
Very carefully. Taurian brandy, triple filtered, then introduced into the suit through an emergency induction port.
That's a straw, Tally.
Say what you will about Mass Effect 3's controversial ending, but the journey there is filled with moments of mythical proportions. The trilogy takes a diverse galaxy on the brink of turmoil and uses its characters to propel the narrative at almost every turn. That's why Mass Effect Andromeda is all the more disappointing. It's a science fiction game with massive potential that it never fully realizes. That potential stems from its tantalizing premise. Several groups from the Milky Way, including humans, have launched the Andromeda Initiative, an attempt to find habitable planets in the neighboring yet distant Andromeda galaxy. In this case, we're the aliens visiting from a distant world. This presents a slew of narrative opportunities. Does this galaxy have sentient life? How will we communicate with them? What kind of wonders or dangers will we encounter? What difficult choices will come with the burden of our race's survival? But rather than chase these storylines in any meaningful direction, Andromeda seems content to guide us through stilted dialogue, boring side quests, and lifeless worlds. This galaxy is gorgeous, yes, but there's not much personality here. It's all spectacle and no soul. This should be a story about characters struggling to build a new home after they've left everything they know behind. For the first several hours of Andromeda, characters make only passing comments about this fact. This game constantly tells us that things are dire, but it doesn't excel at showing us. As the hours pass, we meet new alien races, discover their motivations, and explore new planets that may or may not be a new home for humanity. Food is scarce and supplies are dwindling. This is a race against time. This should be intense, but it doesn't feel intense. We spend hours scanning the environment and performing menial tasks. We speak to characters with fascinating backstories, but lackluster personalities. Few things we do create the wonder or dread that the game tells us we are supposed to be feeling. Look at Mass Effect 2 on the other hand. Here's a game that builds expertly toward an operation so daunting, so seemingly impossible that it's dubbed the suicide mission. Only by gaining your squad mates' loyalty and learning their individual strengths and weaknesses can you emerge unscathed as a team. And in Mass Effect 2, this process is thrilling. Dialogue is captivating. Missions carry weight. These characters are painfully human. They're lonely yet strong, terrified but brave. As you uncover more of BioWare's spellbinding galaxy, you develop very real attachments to this team.
Not sure if Taurian heaven is the same as yours, but if this thing goes sideways and we both end up there, meet me at the bar. I'm buying.
But Mass Effect Andromeda doesn't deliver the same experience. Its characters take too long to captivate. Its galaxy is too boring to pull me through. There is a good sci-fi tale lurking somewhere under the surface, but it's buried by tedium and frustration. An interesting premise is one thing, a well-told story is another. Mass Effect Andromeda reaches for the latter, but falls considerably short.
Yes, it has its shining moments, and I'm hopeful BioWare Montreal can remember them in any sequels the studio makes. But overall, Andromeda remains a disappointing sci-fi story. It lacks the imagination of the titans that came before it. It lacks the heart that makes the best ones memorable.
Yet if there's anything history tells us, it's that there's always hope for another great sci-fi adventure. As Buzz Aldrin says in Mass Effect 3, looking up at that starry sky, there are billions of stars left to explore.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching the third episode of Reboot. Jake and I had a lot of fun diving into science fiction this week, and as always, next Sunday we'll be doing our Reboot 3.5 episode where we field your comments, your questions, your concerns, or suggestions for future episodes. So get your comments in, they might be featured. We'll see you then.